Money has been misunderstood for far too long. People fear it, chase it, worship it, and yet rarely recognize the truth that Florence Scovel Shinn shouted to a world drowning in scarcity. Money is not a master nor a judge. It is a servant, a loyal force awaiting direction from the authority of the human word. Imagine standing in command of your financial reality, not as someone begging for leftovers or praying that luck will suddenly remember your name, but as someone who understands their divine authority, someone who speaks and watches prosperity obey like a well-trained soldier. For decades, society has conditioned us to shrink before money, to treat it as something outside of our control, almost like a wild animal that appears when it wants and bites when it chooses. But Florence Scovel Shinn taught that money is not wild at all. It is disciplined energy. It follows orders. It responds to certainty. And the only reason it doesn't appear in the lives of many is because they speak to it in fear rather than command. The beginning of transformation is always the same: shifting the way we see ourselves. As long as we believe we are victims of the economy, victims of fate, victims of a cruel system that decides who deserves abundance, then everything around us will continue confirming that belief. Florence would say, "Your word is your wand," and with every statement of lack, people cast dark spells against their own prosperity. Every sigh of "I can't afford it," every complaint of "money never stays with me," every defeated whisper of "things are too hard," becomes a decree that the universe honors with precision. Because, whether knowingly or not, we are always giving instructions. We are always commanding something. The tragedy is that many command scarcity while dreaming of abundance. But dreams without authority remain locked behind invisible walls. So today, this is the call. You must take back the authority you forgot. You must stand with a posture that declares, "I was never destined for crumbs. I was designed to rule my experience." Florence Scovel Shinn insisted that prosperity is a spiritual right. She saw each human being as a channel of divine intelligence and reminded them that a king does not beg for his inheritance. He claims it. No one needs to plead with the universe. The universe is not reluctant. The universe is waiting for clear direction. And when someone speaks with aligned conviction, reality reorganizes itself to obey. Think for a moment about the last time a financial worry attacked your peace. Your heart began racing, your thoughts spiraled into fear, and your body reacted as though danger was right in front of you. That panic was not caused by a lack of money. It was caused by the belief that you are powerless in the face of money. Florence Scovel Shinn exposed that lie. She promised that power returns the moment you decide to speak differently, to declare differently, to expect differently. There was once a young man named Daniel who worked repairing musical instruments. He was skilled but invisible, paid just enough to avoid starvation yet far from anything resembling abundance. He believed this was all life could offer someone from his background, until he discovered the radical teachings of Florence. He stood in front of his bathroom mirror each morning, hand steady, voice firm, and declared, "Money, I command you to appear in perfect ways. I authorize your flow into my life with ease and confidence." At first, he felt ridiculous. But Florence always said, "Repetition builds belief." Daniel's posture changed before his bank account did. He walked taller, spoke clearer, and soon attracted contracts to restore antique instruments for collectors who happily paid 10 times what he used to earn. That shift was not luck. It was law. And the same law is available to every single person listening right now. The authority of command changes everything because it changes identity. It rewrites the script you live from. You stop being someone hoping for prosperity and become someone who directs it. From the moment you accept that role, money begins looking for ways to serve you. Florence explained that the subconscious mind is the soil and your words are the seeds. Many plant weeds every day without noticing, then wonder why only struggle grows. When someone begins commanding wealth instead of fearing it, the soil starts producing a new harvest. It is not overnight magic. It is disciplined spiritual engineering. It begins in the morning, when your reflection becomes the reminder that you are the source. It continues throughout the day, with every declaration you choose to make in alignment with abundance. And it strengthens at night, when the subconscious rests open and receptive to every word you speak. Florence Scovel Shinn didn't just give affirmations. She gave people a new identity, the identity of a commander of life. To embody that identity, you must not whisper your desires. You must declare them. Do not bow to your bills. Do not tremble before your expenses. Do not reduce yourself to a life of hoping. When you look at your financial reality, see yourself as the cause, not the effect. Because the moment you reclaim authorship, the storyline begins to transform. Scarcity is an illusion fed by compliance. Abundance is a reality activated by authority. And authority is a choice you make every single day. Florence Scovel Shinn would remind her students that even when the world outside looks chaotic, the inner world can stay sovereign. The external shifts when the internal commands. This is the first key, the realization that you are not waiting for money. Money is waiting for you. The moment you speak with boldness, everything starts moving in your favor. Ideas awaken, doors appear, allies emerge, and unexpected channels open. This is not coincidence. It is obedience. Money is energy trained to respond to authority. And today marks the day you begin speaking as the one who commands. If you truly allow this truth to settle into the deepest parts of your being, everything will begin to shift in ways that feel almost supernatural. Florence Scovel Shinn understood that commanding money is not about arrogance or greed. It is about remembering your divine position in the structure of existence. When a person finally stands straight forward with shoulders lifted and heart steady, speaking words that align with spiritual authority, they step into a realm where doubt loses power and fear dissolves. Money becomes a partner instead of a threat. Most people believe they must wait for the perfect moment to change. A new job, a raise, a rescue from someone wealthier. But Florence insisted that no external change can precede the internal command. The world responds to the vibration you emit, and authority generates the strongest frequency. When you speak like someone who expects abundance, life begins delivering opportunities that match that expectation. It is like tuning a radio. The station was always broadcasting, but you must adjust the dial to hear the music. The flow of prosperity is constant. Many just never tune in. Florence also taught that the voice is the instrument of creation. Think of how mountains move when someone refuses to surrender. Think of how new inventions and fortunes arise because one person dared to believe they had the right to succeed. Words are not mere sound. They are intentions given wings. Every time you say, "I command money to support my purpose," you are transmitting an order into the field of infinite possibility. But here lies the missing element that most ignore. Emotion must follow the declaration. Not desperation, not anxiety, but assurance. When you speak from authority, you speak from knowing, not wishing. Your body must agree with your words. Authority is not hunched over worrying. Authority stands tall, breathing deeply, occupying space. Florence saw posture as a silent decree, a statement louder than sentences. If a person speaks abundance while shrinking physically in fear, the universe listens to the body instead. So when you give a command, let every part of your being reinforce the message. I expect compliance. There was a woman named Layla who spent years working in a bakery, crafting pastries that delighted everyone except her landlord. She worried daily that the money she earned would never stretch far enough to cover rent, utilities, and her dreams of owning her own shop. One night, after feeling exhausted by fear, she remembered something from a book by Florence Scovel Shinn. Act as if you already possess the thing you desire. So Layla tried something strange. She began treating every bill as a business expense of her future bakery. When she paid her rent, she would say, "This is a seed for the building that is already mine." When she restocked ingredients, she declared, "My storehouse overflows." And every morning before turning on the oven, she would speak aloud, "Money, support my mission. Multiply now." Weeks later, a customer walked in, tasted her pastries, and asked if she had ever considered opening a storefront. That customer turned out to be an investor who loved supporting local entrepreneurs. Months later, Layla's bakery opened its doors, not through frantic struggle but through spiritual alignment. That is the effect of commanding instead of begging. This transformation isn't limited to a specific country, background, or education. Authority is a universal force. We see it every day in nature. Rivers carve valleys, trees break through concrete, the sun rises regardless of opinions. Authority is simply aligned power taking form. When you embrace abundance as your natural design, life must comply. Florence Scovel Shinn often compared the human mind to a divine blueprint hidden inside a locked vault. The password is your word. With every confident declaration, you unlock another layer of potential. When doubt creeps in, and doubt always tries, you silence it with repetition. The mind learns through practice. The subconscious does not judge, analyze, or question. It accepts and executes. Tell it you are lacking, and it will build a life that mirrors lack. Tell it you live in endless supply, and it will orchestrate supply in forms you never predicted. Even in the darkest seasons, the authority of your word can call light back into existence. Florence taught a technique that many try to oversimplify, but in truth it contains deep spiritual precision. Command, believe, act, testify. These 4 ingredients are the pillars of manifestation. Commanding opens the path. Believing keeps it clear. Acting demonstrates trust. Testifying seals the result. When you proclaim prosperity, you must behave as someone who expects results. Instead of obsessing over what is missing, you celebrate every sign of forward movement. Florence used to remind her students that all success begins invisibly. Sprouts appear before harvest. Authority does not panic in the unseen stage. Authority knows what is coming. The more you affirm the flow, the more the invisible becomes undeniable. Soon opportunities start showing up disguised as coincidences. People call with unexpected offers. Money appears through channels you forgot existed. A client returns. A refund arrives. A new skill becomes profitable. These are troops arriving in response to your orders. But authority also requires consistency. You cannot command prosperity one day and curse your finances the next. The universe follows the most frequent instruction. That is why discipline is necessary. Morning affirmations set the frequency, and nightly declarations reinforce it. Florence Scovel Shinn taught her students to close their eyes before bed and imagine their desires already achieved. When the subconscious absorbs that image, it begins rearranging reality to reflect it. Your future forms while you rest. That is the beauty of spiritual law. It works even when you are asleep. Now, take a breath, feel your spine align, lift your chin slightly, and recognize the truth emerging. You are the commander, not the captive. Abundance is not coming. It is responding. And now I want to speak to you directly, human to human. If anything in these words has awakened certainty inside you, if you feel the shift beginning, then I invite you to take a simple action that amplifies this transformation. Subscribe to this channel so that every new teaching by Florence Scovel Shinn reaches you like a reinforcement of your own authority. And not only that, leave a comment declaring one financial command you are giving today. Something bold, something that excites you. This is not a generic request for engagement. This is a step of testimony, a witness to your shift. Your declaration in the comments becomes the first written order recorded in the universe. So tell us, what are you commanding money to do for you now? Your voice matters. Your word shapes worlds. Claim your space among those who choose abundance, not fear. When you begin to live as someone who commands rather than someone who pleads, the landscape of your life starts to transform in subtle but unmistakable ways. Florence Scovel Shinn always emphasized that prosperity is not a distant miracle. It is a response, a reaction, a natural consequence of aligned authority. The moment you stop worshipping the idea of money and start treating it as a tool, a shift occurs not only in your circumstances, but in your identity. You no longer wake up each morning bracing for battle. Instead, you rise like a leader ready to give direction. Authority does not mean force. It means clarity. When you are clear about what you want, where you are heading, and who you are becoming, the universe has no choice but to support that path. Florence taught her students that confusion is a closed door, but certainty is a key. Those who hesitate live lives built from hesitation. Those who speak boldly carve roads that did not exist before they declared them. And it all begins with something that seems too simple to matter. Language. Your words are the seeds of every future experience. If someone constantly repeats, "Money disappears as fast as it arrives," the subconscious mind will make that statement true through choices, attitudes, and blind spots that sabotage abundance. But when someone affirms, "Money stays with me. Money grows under my direction. Money strengthens my purpose," that same subconscious will adjust beliefs, expand opportunities, and amplify awareness so that reality begins matching the new script. The inner programmer never rests. It will build a tower of wealth or a dungeon of fear, depending solely on the commands it receives. That is why Florence Scovel Shinn urged her students to remove sarcasm, fear-based jokes, and negativity from their daily speech. Because the universe doesn't differentiate between what you say in frustration and what you say in seriousness. All words carry creative power. To speak with command is to speak with responsibility. Great leaders don't choose words carelessly. They understand that their voice sets movements into motion. In the same way, your voice sets your financial flow into motion every single day. And what about fear? Fear is the greatest pretender. It enters disguised as caution, humility, or logic. But Florence would say, fear is faith pointed in the wrong direction. It is still belief, just belief in loss instead of gain. When fear rises, the command must rise louder. When doubt whispers, your declaration must roar. Authority does not wait until confidence is perfect. Authority is the very force that builds confidence. Every time you speak prosperity in the face of fear, you win spiritual territory over old mental prisons. Let us look at another example. A man named Victor. He used to deliver packages across the city, working long hours, always exhausted, barely able to pay his bills. He believed survival was the best he could achieve. But one evening, scrolling through videos online, he discovered a recording of Florence Scovel Shinn's teachings. Something about her conviction struck him like lightning. That night, he decided to experiment. He stood in his tiny living room, placed his feet firmly on the floor, and said aloud, "Money, follow me. Resources, locate me. Opportunity, reveal yourself." It didn't feel natural at first. But he continued, morning and night. Days later, a customer he delivered to recognized his potential and offered him a chance to help run logistics for a growing business. Within months, Victor's income doubled. A year later, he was leading an entire department. What changed was not the world. It was the posture from which he spoke to the world. Authority changes posture. Posture changes action. Action changes outcome. Florence often compared prosperity to light. Darkness cannot resist light once it is turned on. Scarcity cannot resist someone who stands in certainty. When you activate your authority, you are flipping the switch. Many people sit in the dark waiting for the world to change their environment. But all along, the switch is within arm's reach, your own voice. So how do you install this identity as a permanent state rather than a temporary burst of motivation? Repetition, ritual, and remembrance. Command in the morning when consciousness is fresh and open. Command again at night when the subconscious is ready to absorb without resistance. Throughout the day, whenever doubt arrives, command again. Consistency is not about stubbornness. It is about neural and spiritual recalibration. You are replacing a lifetime of fear-based conditioning with new orders of abundance. But there is another element people often overlook: imagination. Florence Scovel Shinn believed imagination is the workshop of God through the human mind. When you visualize money flowing toward you, lingering with you, expanding under your leadership, you are imprinting a blueprint into the invisible realm. Words build the structure. Imagination paints the details. The subconscious then consults both and begins construction. Take a moment right now and imagine a scenario where your finances feel light, smooth, and joyful. Imagine logging into your bank account and seeing a balance that makes you smile. Imagine paying your bills with gratitude instead of anxiety. Imagine dreaming bigger because you finally can. This visualization is not fantasy. It is rehearsal. And what we rehearse repeatedly, we eventually perform in reality. Now consider this. If money is a soldier, then you are the general. Generals do not chase their troops. They call them forth. They direct them to the right places. Money is not meant to be pursued. It is meant to be commanded. The more you chase, the more it runs. But when you say with conviction, "Come," money has no choice but to obey spiritual hierarchy. The more you practice this authority, the more you will notice signs. Someone remembers you and wants to collaborate. An unexpected deposit arrives. A problem becomes a portal to increased income. An old skill becomes newly valuable. These are not miracles in the sense of breaking natural laws. They are miracles because they are the natural law Florence revealed. So let this truth settle into your bones. You are the source of your financial transformation. You are not waiting for abundance. Abundance has been waiting for you to take command. Prosperity is a response to leadership. And leadership begins with your word. There is something profoundly liberating when a person finally recognizes that abundance does not come from luck, charity, or a world deciding whether they are worthy, but from their own inner alignment with authority. Florence Scovel Shinn changed lives because she exposed the illusion that money is scarce and selective. She revealed that what looks like limitation is often just a belief that has been repeated so many times that it solidified into a person's identity. But identity is clay, not concrete. The moment you speak with conviction, you begin reshaping it. You become someone who expects prosperity instead of someone who hopes for survival. And expectation is the birthplace of manifestation. Think about how the greatest breakthroughs in history happened. Someone dared to speak a reality that did not exist yet. Someone said, "We will fly through the sky," and airplanes were born. Someone said, "Light will conquer darkness," and electricity lit the world. Someone refused to accept what was and declared what should be, and the universe rearranged itself around that declaration. Authority has always been the engine of human evolution. Florence Scovel Shinn simply applied it to money and watched ordinary individuals become extraordinary forces of influence, generosity, and freedom. One of the most powerful parts of her teaching is the understanding that wealth is not a number. It is a frequency. You do not become wealthy by counting coins. You become wealthy by elevating your self-concept to match abundance. When you believe you are meant for more, your behavior changes. You show up differently. You take actions that someone in scarcity would never take. You notice doors that others walk past. You speak opportunities into existence while others complain about obstacles. This is why two people in the same situation can experience two completely different outcomes. One speaks as a victim, the other as a commander. Florence always said that your word is a law. Once spoken with intention and faith, it becomes a decree the universe begins fulfilling. But she also taught that resistance comes when your environment doesn't immediately match your new identity. In those moments, many people give up. They think, "This isn't working," and their command dissolves back into fear. Authority requires endurance. A general who issues an order does not panic if the troops take time to arrive. They trust the system. They trust the chain of command. They trust themselves. There was a man named Elias who worked as a street photographer. He captured beautiful portraits, yet barely made enough to pay for film and equipment. One night, after feeling defeated, he read a passage from Florence Scovel Shinn. "Do not wait to see the results before you believe. Believe, and the results must come." Something inside him ignited. He began each morning by declaring, "Clients search for me. My art is valued. Money honors my creativity." He carried himself differently. Instead of shrinking when asked for his rates, he answered with confidence. Instead of accepting free work for exposure, he requested fair compensation. That confidence caused a wedding coordinator to notice him, which led to a contract that paid more than 3 months of his usual income. Then another opportunity arrived. And another. Not because the city suddenly gained appreciation for photography, but because Elias finally commanded value instead of asking for permission to exist. This is what happens when someone steps into their rightful identity. They stop negotiating their worth. They stop apologizing for their presence. They stop shrinking to make others comfortable. They speak their desires with the certainty of someone who knows those desires carry divine authorization. Florence Scovel Shinn taught that desire is not a mistake. It is a clue. It is the soul reminding you of what you were meant to experience in this lifetime. If you desire prosperity, it is because you were designed to command it. You cannot crave what you are not equipped to create. And yet, most people surrender their inner authority without even noticing. They hand the pen of their life story to fear, to media, to economic trends, to childhood conditioning. But the moment you reclaim the pen, the moment you write your own decree, the direction of your life begins to bend toward your words. When you say, "Abundance is my default state," you are correcting a lie that has misdirected humanity for generations. When you stand and declare, "I command money to support my mission," you are rewriting a blueprint that previously allowed only struggle. Even your body plays a role in this transformation. Florence emphasized that you must feel abundance physically. When you breathe fully, you are embodying expansion. When you lift your head, you embody confidence. When you walk with purpose, you embody capability. The outer expression reinforces the inner command. A person who looks defeated communicates a decree of defeat, even without speaking. But a person who stands in dignity communicates victory, even in silence. This is why rituals matter. Not superstition, but repetition with intention. Every morning you speak a command is a brick in the foundation of your new financial identity. Every night you visualize abundance is reinforcement in the architecture of your destiny. Every time you reject negative self-talk, you strengthen the walls of your kingdom. And kingdoms are not built in a day, but they are built by those who commit daily. Imagine yourself months from now, looking back at the moment you began commanding prosperity. Imagine the details. The increase in your bank account, the freedom in your decisions, the peace in your mornings, the power in your posture. Imagine the relief on your face when bills become reminders of provision instead of triggers of panic. Imagine your dreams transforming from someday to now. This future is not a fantasy. It is a consequence of your authority. Money is listening. Opportunity is listening. Life is listening. All are waiting for your command. Florence Scovel Shinn did not teach passive wishing. She taught active creation. She taught people to speak as those who know the universe backs every word aligned with divine truth. And the divine truth is this: abundance is not for a few. Abundance is for anyone who claims it. There comes a moment in every transformation when the mind can no longer pretend to be small. When the heart refuses to bow to old fears. When the voice inside finally says, "Enough. I was born for more than this." That moment, the decision to step into authority, is the true beginning of abundance. It is not the first dollar earned, nor the first debt cleared. It is the instant you stop whispering requests and start issuing commands. Florence Scovel Shinn devoted her life to waking people up to this truth. Money is not a test you must pass. It is a tool that responds to your orders. You were never meant to chase it like prey. You were meant to direct it like a loyal force created to support your purpose. Imagine everything that becomes possible when scarcity is no longer allowed a seat at the table of your thoughts. Imagine how differently you will speak, move, and plan when you know that your commands transform into form. You will no longer shrink when opportunities appear. You will recognize them as soldiers reporting for duty. You will no longer fear bills or expenses. They will become signs that the flow is alive and circulating. You will no longer feel guilt for desiring more. You will see desire as divine instruction, calling you forward into your highest expression. Florence Scovel Shinn believed that money follows clarity, purpose, and spiritual confidence. When you declare your desires with unwavering certainty, you activate forces that exceed what logic alone can accomplish. You gain access to timing you didn't orchestrate, connections you didn't chase, and blessings you didn't even know to request. The invisible becomes visible through the doorway of your authority. The command is the key. The certainty is the ignition. The persistence is the fuel. Consider someone who embraces this fully, the version of you who refuses to bow to limitation. This version no longer says, "I hope things get better." Instead, they speak, "Things obey my direction." This version of you doesn't wait for validation. They validate themselves by speaking truth into existence. This version doesn't question whether they deserve abundance. They recognize that abundance is the natural result of divine identity. And when you wear that identity consistently, money responds with devotion. You may have noticed small hints already, tiny shifts that feel like signs. The moment you thought about commanding instead of begging, something awakened. Maybe your mind felt lighter. Maybe an idea sparked. Maybe an opportunity crossed your path. These are not coincidences. They are confirmations. Florence Scovel Shinn would tell her students that the universe sends signals to those who step forward in faith, not to tease them with possibility, but to prove that the command is working. And when you truly understand this law, something powerful happens. You stop accepting delays as denials. A temporary appearance of lack is not a verdict. It is merely a moment waiting for your voice. Authority is not silence. Authority is not anxiety. Authority speaks. Authority declares. Authority insists. Authority persists until the physical world aligns with the spiritual decree. This is not stubbornness. It is sovereignty. So breathe deeply right now and feel the expansion in your chest. That is the sensation of truth taking root. Say within yourself, or out loud if you dare, "Money does not intimidate me. Money responds to me. My word is law over my finances. My voice activates abundance." Every time you speak like this, you reinforce the new architecture of your life. And now, imagine the ripple effect. When money serves you, you serve others. You invest in what matters. You support people you love. You create opportunities instead of begging for them. Abundance becomes a ministry of empowerment. Florence Scovel Shinn saw wealth not as possession but as expression, the expression of divine generosity manifesting through you. When you allow prosperity to flow into your hands, it doesn't stop there. It multiplies through your actions, lifting others. That is why commanding wealth is sacred, because it amplifies the good you can do in the world. The time has come to anchor this new identity permanently. No returning to smallness. No shrinking for comfort. No hesitating when the universe asks who you are. You are the authority. You are the commander. You are the channel of divine abundance made visible. Let these final declarations seal this truth into every cell of your being. I command prosperity to surround me. I command money to support my purpose. I command every resource needed to fulfill my destiny to arrive now. I command fear to leave and faith to rise. I command abundance to overflow and continue expanding. I command my life to reflect my divine inheritance. Feel those words. They are not poetry, they are spiritual legislation. And now, my friend, if anything in this journey has awakened something powerful inside you, and I know it has, then I ask you to take a bold step that solidifies your choice. Subscribe to this channel right now, not as a gesture of habit, but as a declaration. I align myself with prosperity. I stay connected to teachings that elevate me. I move with a community that believes in authority, not fear. And then, share this message with at least one person you want to see thriving by your side. Prosperity multiplies when shared. Lastly, go to the comments and tell your story. Share one thing you commanded today. Share any sign that has already shown up. Share how your heart shifted while listening. Your words do not just inspire others, they become your testimony, your witness, your written command recorded into the universe. This moment is sacred. This moment is the turning point. This moment is the one you will look back on and say, "That was the day I remembered who I am." And abundance has been obeying ever since.